Hello and welcome to my presentation talking about forest cakes in Grand Archive. First, before we really get into things, let's define a forest cake. What is a forest cake? Well, a forest cake is a 2-cost item that says, on enter, draw a card. Then for class bonus, sacrifice it when a critter enters the field and give it a buff counter. The forest cake itself and cards like them don't seem all that powerful. Their strength lies in the utility they provide, in this case giving a buff counter, as well as the fact that they are card neutral plays that increases the velocity of your deck. So in layman's terms, a forest cake really boils down to this, a 2-cost card that draws a card while putting something of utility onto the board. Okay, I hear you say. Tell me about other forest cakes. As far as forest cake-like cards go, Baby Gray Slime is one of the most infamous ones. For 2-cost, on play, by revealing 2 slime cards amongst the cards in your hand and memory, you draw 1. The utility it provides then is a 1/1 body with intercept. During the time this card was legal, it was an absolute terror in the format. Being splashed alongside cards like Slime Shield and Baby Green Slime, it enabled dirtily strategies that spun its wheels by blanking attacks forever. It's no surprise then that of all the forest cake lookalikes we're going to talk about today, Baby Gray was the first to be banned. Manufacture Cell is also a forest cake. For 2-cost, it's a fast speed action that summons a power cell rested, and if you have an automaton permanent on the board, you draw a card. Though the power cell itself is less powerful than Baby Gray, many automata and power cell related cards have tremendous utility. The most infamous of which is Turbocharge, allowing you to cash in the power cell you've created to draw 2 cards. But what if the only thing that really matters is whether or not the card draws? Windmill Engineer is a 2-cost 1/1 ally that can be imbued. If imbued, when it enters, it draws a card, not into hand but into memory. Though it's not as powerful as Baby Gray, it offers significantly greater flexibility by not requiring slots for Slime Shield and Baby Green. Besides, Baby Gray is banned after all. Mnemonic Charm is also a forest cake. It's a 2-cost item just like forest cake, and although it draws into memory, it provides some utility by empowering spells so they can be cast as if you were at a higher level. This matters for cards like Fireball as well as cards that have Empower synergy. Dormant Sacrificial Altar is also a forest cake. For 2-cost, you get a domain that draws into memory, and the utility it provides is, by sacrificing a robot and a human, you mill yourself for 2. To be frank, people have only really played this card for the utility it provides with its type line, Domain. Being a domain gives tremendous synergy with cards like the Eternal Kingdom and the Exalted Doromegian Throne, as well as cards like the upcoming Doromegian Foundry and MRC Altar. So hear me out. If Dormant Sacrificial Altar is a forest cake, and no one really uses it for the utility in milling yourself for 2, Hub of Innovation is also a forest cake. Though it costs 3, its utility is in being norm, while still enabling all the same synergies that Dormant Sacrificial Altar also provides. In a similar vein, Focusing Round is also a forest cake. Though it also costs 3, it does draw, albeit into hand, and it can be loaded into guns, effectively speeding up the use of firearm weapons by an entire turn. And hey, if we're sliding the reserve cost of what makes a forest cake, Tactful Sergeant is also a forest cake. For 4 cost, it's a 1/4 that, on enter, draws into memory if your champion has attacked this turn. Definitely a forest cake. But what if we're fine if the drawing replacement effect isn't immediately front-loaded? I'm happy to announce that Baby Silver Slime, the apology for designing Baby Gray, is definitely a forest cake. It provides immediate utility with the conditional taunt effect if you own other slimes on the board, and when it inevitably dies, by revealing a slime from hand or memory, you draw a card. With cards like Cremation Ritual and Primordial Ritual, changing the immediate draw into an on-death trigger doesn't really change too much about the application of the card itself. If you're looking for a more generic version of Baby Silver, there's also Library Witch. Sure, it's a 0/1, not a 1/1, but it's a 2-cost ally with intercept that draws you a card when it dies. Now I hear what you're saying. Perhaps we've gone too far. But hear me out. Cards that allow you to reuse forest cake or have some other utility also qualify as forest cakes. This means Reclaim is definitely a forest cake. By returning cards like Windmill Engineer and Tactful Sergeant to the hand, as well as Baby Gray Slime in the past, Reclaim allows them to be replayed, allowing for additional draws. It also has Floating Memory, which basically counts as drawing a card by itself. The logical extreme of this then would be the fabled Emerald Fatestone. For 4 reserve, once a game, the Emerald Fatestone can flicker something such as forest cake, allowing an additional draw into your hand. The fact it costs 4 is something we don't really mind anyway, as we've established that Tactful Sergeant is also a forest cake, and that card also costs 4. The trade-off to consider then is that the fabled Emerald Fatestone also allows you to flicker something else, such as something of your opponent's, really emphasizing that each forest cake is a delicate balance between increasing your influence and overall utility. So, if we focus on just the utility aspect, what if we don't mind whose influence we're increasing? Dream Fairy is also a forest cake. For 3 cost, Dream Fairy is a 1/2 ally with stealth that returns an opponent's ally to their memory. Then your opponent cannot play cards with the same name as the ally you've returned. This is a tremendously powerful, borderline broken effect in Grand Archive, and it's one of the most flexible removal options available to the wind element. As far as forest cake-like goes, no wonder this one is on Category 1 on Grand Archive's banned and restricted list. Shatter the Brittle is also a forest cake. Like forest cake, Shatter is also a 2-cost card and increases your opponent's influence by trading in one of their funny game objects you'll be blowing up with it. Sure, Sure, your opponent's influence is increasing, but as we've established, every forest cake is busted, so surely this one is too. But let's return to a focus on utility. Zhangjiao is also a forest cake. Not only can it draw 2 if you have nothing in memory, it also has 3 other incredible modes depending on how many cards you have in your memory. For having 1 to 3, you can recover 4, for having 4 to 6, you glimpse 4, and for having 7 or more, your opponent is forced to discard. As far as forest cakes go, if you can build around it, Zhangjiao just might be the best. So let's revisit forest cake. Huh. This card sucks. It only draws a card? That's it? And it buffs a guy once? Did you guys see how much text Zhangjiao had? Forest cake sucks. How on earth is forest cake a forest cake? So now I think we can firmly define that forest cake is not a forest cake. Remember to like and subscribe if you found this video logically compromising. Thank you for coming to my presentation.